Okay, hello friends, and welcome in one more session. So today again, Priyanka is with us. I'm sure, friend, if you are our subscriber, you definitely have seen this video so far. In part one, Priyanka, along with Priyanka, we have covered around close to 20 different questions, which are asked in 10 different interviews in the past. And here we are with the part two. So first of all, thank you everyone with so much love. You have given so much likes and so much views. So first of all, thank you for that. And hopefully this session will be like that only. So Priyanka, again, welcome. And let's rock it again.
Sure. Thank you, Sunant. And I would also like to thank the audiences who have watched my video and given so much of appreciation and love to the video. And I'm happy to deliver more content for other people who are really aspiring to get a Scrum Master role. So if it's giving some value to somebody, that's really great.
Thank you. Thanks, Priyanka. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. Okay, so if you allow, shall we start, Priyanka?
Yes, ma'am, we can start.
Okay. So let's start with this one. And again, this is the, I think, most asked nowadays, this question, that what is your favorite Scrum event and why?
So my favorite Scrum event, I would say that Scrum framework is defined in such a way that if you remove any of the thing from the framework, it will not add much value, because it's a foundation and structure of a methodology. So if you have all the things into the framework, that will go best and you will be able to deliver best if you're using all of the things. But if we are talking about something which is really favorite, I would say retrospective event. That is the most favorite event for me as a Scrum Master, because that's the one I play a major role in. And it's a technique, it's a meeting where we talk about what did not went well, what went well, and what is it that we can improve upon. So together with the team, we can collaborate and get honest feedback so that we can improve into our future sprints. Scrum is based again on 3 pillars, which is transparency, inspection, and adaptation. And with the help of retrospective, it's one of the best platform or an event wherein we are able to inspect or we are transparent enough to talk about what is it that we have done into our sprint, and we are giving an opportunity to each of the team members to inspect what went well during the sprint and what were the opportunity areas where we can improve into our future sprints. And then according to that, we can adapt it into our further sprints. So I think that's a good platform where we can together as a team work upon. And then as a Scrum Master, I can gather those areas and coach my team that what is the right approach that we can follow into the further sprints. So I think retrospective is something my favorite as a Scrum Master.
Thanks, Priyanka, for that. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about refinement and sprint planning. So what is your key role in these 2 events, refinement and sprint planning, as a Scrum?
Yeah, so sprint refinement meeting, I would first like to explain what is a refinement meeting and what is a sprint planning meeting. A sprint refinement meeting is not one of the events from the framework. However, again, it's a really important meeting that should happen during the sprint, where the team, the entire Scrum team, including the product owner and the developers, sit together and talk about what are the functionalities that they are going to deliver next. So they talk about the features and functionality, they order it or prioritize it basis the business value. And again, estimation is again one of the things that is done during refinement meeting. As a Scrum Master during the refinement meeting, my role is to facilitate the meeting, understanding what if the developers are able to understand the functionality which product owner is trying to explain, and again understanding the body language of the team, so that if there is anything the team needs any kind of information the team needs to push to the product owner, they are open enough to talk about it. They are courageous enough to talk about it. And if there are any concerns, there are any dependencies related to any of those user stories, if they feel any challenges or any risk, they talk about it openly. So as an observer in the team, my role as a Scrum Master is to observe and push the team that if there is any item that can hinder the performance of a sprint, or that can stop the sprint for delivering something valuable, I should bring it up. I think that's the role of a Scrum Master during the refinement meeting. And sprint planning meetings, this is the very first event in a Scrum framework, and it happens at the first day of the sprint as soon as the sprint starts, where again the entire Scrum meet together and talk about what are the high priority user stories they want to pick up for the sprint, that they want to, with the help of which they want to deliver some shippable increment at the end of a sprint. So using or choosing those user stories, the developers commit to a following user story that these are the ones they will be able to deliver, and with the help of this, this is their sprint goal, they will be able to come out with this functionality after the end of a sprint. This is what is covered in the sprint planning meeting, which covers why we are doing the sprint and what is it that we will be able to build and how we are going to do that. And again, my role as a Scrum Master is similar as we have done in the sprint refinement meeting, where as an observer or as a good listener, I will observe the team and asking the right questions, if understanding if all of the team members have really understood the functionality that we want to develop, and if not, what are the challenges that they are facing, and if there are any impediments that I can help solve. So yeah, it's basically a good listener and observation skills that is needed by a Scrum Master during these two meetings.
Thanks a lot, Priyanka, for this detailed explanation. Okay. So this one is again very interesting. So what is your strength and a weakness as a Scrum Master?
Okay, so working in a Scrum Master role for a good number of years now, I would say my strength as a Scrum Master is that I am able to collaborate with my team well, and I am very empathetic person. So I am able to build that empathy within the team, so that team can, or people can confide in me. They can come to me anytime and sharing their challenges and concerns. What is it they are facing? They can openly talk about it. And as a Scrum Master, since I'm responsible for solving their problems, their blockers, I'll do my best to solve those problems. So I think my strength is that people can confide in me. They can come and share their experiences, their challenges, so that I can help solve them. As a weakness, I would say my weakness as a Scrum Master is that I have worked with many geographical teams, and working with multi-geographical teams is a kind of a challenge sometimes, because there are delays, there are cultural differences, there are time zone differences. So at times there are collaboration gets delayed, and some of the situations where some of the people are working in different time zones. So you need to get all of those together, especially for those 5 events that we have in the sprint. So collaborating them in that respect when they are working in different geographical regions is kind of a challenge sometimes. So I think that is, I would say, is a weakness as a Scrum Master. And this is in general, I would say anybody working as a Scrum Master might face this problem.
Okay, true, Priyanka. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about most asked question. What is burn up chart and burn down chart, and when we can use which metrics which we can use?
Yeah, so burn down chart and burn down chart are 2 of the metrics that we use in the Scrum framework, and both of them basically serve the same purpose to tell the progress of the product or the project that we are doing. Burn down chart tells us how many work has been completed. However, burn up chart tells us how much work is, sorry, I did it wrong. Burn down chart tells us that how much work has been done or completed. Yeah, I was right. And then burn up chart tells us how much work is still left. Explaining them one by one, burn down chart again is a graph which is x to y axis. On x axis, we have the days, the total time we have in our cadence. If we have a 2-week sprint, so those of 10 days will be there in the x axis. On y axis, we have the efforts. We can have it in terms of hours or in terms of story points. And then there is an ideal line, which tells us that if we work in a ideal situation, how much work should be burned down each day. And then there is an actual line, which tells us based on that ideal line, how much we are able to cover and how much stories we are able to burn day by day. So that is what is done with the help of a burn down chart. The team uses it during the daily scrum so that they can see what is the work they have been able to complete day by day. And in a way, it helps to track the progress of their sprint. And similarly, burn up chart again serves the same purpose, tells us about the progress of the project, or maybe as a whole, I would say, because it again tells us in terms of the total time versus the efforts. So day by day, how much work we have been able to complete. We are able to mark that line on the graph that after each day or after every sprint, how much work we have been able to complete. And if we have a rough idea of how many total story points or user stories we have into our project, say if it is 200, and then basis that every day we are able to mark that how many stories we are able to complete each day. So basically, burn down and burn up chart are doing the same thing, but in a reverse order. Yeah, that's about burn down and burn up chart.
Okay, thanks a lot, Priyanka, for that. Okay. Now this one is again very interesting. How you're going to explain Agile to your grandmother?
Okay, yeah, this one is really interesting because in this, the question is like, we are trying to explain Agile concepts to somebody who is a non-technical person who has never done something called software development. So if I have been given a chance to explain Agile to somebody, a grandmother or maybe a grandmother or maybe a child, I would explain it in terms of a real-time example, a real problem that we are facing. So let me share an example, and considering I am explaining this Agile terminology to my grandmother. So I'll say that Agile as an English word has a meaning is to deliver fastly and incrementally. So for taking an example, that suppose we want to hire a house help for 24/7, and this is the project we have in hand, and we want to do it, and we have no idea what all work we could have. We have some basic understanding of what all should be done by that house help. So maybe doing the dishes and cooking and then washing the clothes and then taking care of the kids. So we know some of the basic functions that the house help will do, but we do not have a clear picture of what all needs to be done. So instead of hiring somebody for 24/7, I would suggest if we can hire somebody for maybe 2 hours each day, and then understand what our requirements are and how the other person will be able to perform. And this is then how are the expectations from the family members coming up, which maybe are end users who are going to use that functionality, or maybe that house help, the people who are going to use that, so they can give their feedback, and basis that we can explain those roles or responsibility that house help is going to do. And basis that we're going to increase the time. Maybe we'll take it to 4 hours and then 6 hours, and then finally making that house help work for 24/7. So that is how maybe a non-technical person get a grasp of what Agile is and how Agile works in software development.
Okay, thanks a lot, Priyanka, for that. Okay. Okay, so this one is about MVP and MMP, minimum marketable product. So first of all, what are these two terms, and what's the difference between these two, MVP and MMP?
Yeah, MVP is minimum viable. MVP is minimum viable product, and MMP is minimum marketable product. And minimum viable product, if I say, is that the minimum features that we should develop, or the minimum functionality that we should have, which will tell us, which will help us, ensure that the assumptions that we have made to ensure that these assumptions are correct, or maybe the idea we have taken, if we are developing a software, the idea we have in mind, is it going to work? If we are going to develop that minimum functionality, that will be called as minimum viable product, and which will basically decide the future of a product. That we have an idea in mind, we created some minimum functionality, is it really going to work, and can we take it further? That we call as a minimum viable product. And then after having multiple minimum viable products, making changes, getting feedback, we will come out with a minimum marketable product. That is something which will actually launch to the market, as the term says, minimum marketable product. So something which is ready enough to be delivered to the early customers so that they can use it. And this will be few versions after MVP, where we are adding certain features when it is actually ready to be put into the market as the basic functionalities that we are giving to the end users. Yeah, so this is MVP and MMP in my terms.
True. Okay, thanks, Priyanka. Okay, so this one is again, I think, a good one. So when you have a multiple offers in hand, why you are looking for other opportunity? How you tackle this question?
Sure. So I have also been asked this question, and that's why we have been bringing it up. That I've been asked this multiple times, that if you're already holding an offer in hand, why looking for other opportunities? So my reason for this is that, and it changes from person to person, and it is different from person to person. For me, it's that I have been working in an organization for a good number of years. So I've worked in a single organization for 12 years. So although I was given multiple opportunities to grow my skill set, my technical skills, I was QA, I was into a QA role at the beginning of my career, and then I moved to Scrum Master. So I was able to grow my skill set. However, financially, I was not able to grow much being into the same organization. So that's why when I am going to look for a new job now, I want to be financially convinced enough so that where I am, wherever I am going, I can stay there for long. I can be financially, I can make my financials match to the market standard, so that even after 1 year, I'm not going back again and looking for change to match my package to my peers. So that's why, to make my financials mark up to the market standard, I'm still looking out for a job. And yeah, that's my reason.
Thanks, Priyanka, for honest answer.
Yeah.
Not sure whether people will like it or not, but then that's always okay to tell.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, I don't know if people will like or not, but that's the reality.
Keep it up. Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's talk about prioritization technique, which you know, or which maybe your product owner used in the past for user story prioritization.
Sure. So in our organization, the PO use multiple prioritization techniques while prioritizing or ordering the user stories. And some of the ones that I would like to bring up is like stack ranking, which is one of the most common one, wherein we order the user stories as number 1, number 2, number 3. So the number 1 has the highest priority, and the number 2 is lesser priority than number 1. Again, number 3 is again much lesser than number 2. So it's a stack ranking, and some of the benefits of this is that we have a clearly defined order and the priority will not change. The number 1 will always be going first into our sprint backlog and will be delivered first. So that's how this is one of the approach the PO uses. Another one that is being used is the Moscow technique, which talks about must have. In Moscow, we have must have, and then we have should have, could have, and won't have. Must have talks about what are the functionalities or features or the user stories which are must have and should be must be there for the customers to be used. And should have are some of the features that if not there in the product would not make a good product. So these should be there in the product, but it will be delivered after the must have functionalities have been delivered. Then we have could have functionalities, which tells us that these functionalities, if are there, would be liked by the customer and the customer would be delighted if those functionalities are there. But if even if they are not there, we are fine, the product will still do fine. So these are could have functionalities, and won't have functionalities are the features which are really not needed and we can remove those from the product backlog. So that's another technique that is used by the product owner. Third one that I would like to talk about is the 𝐾𝐀 model. In 𝐾𝐀 model, we have different thresholds that we defined, like attractive, we have indifferent, we have one-dimensional. Let me talk about them one by one. Attractive are the ones which should be there in the product, and if it's there in the product, that it will be liked by the customer. So the satisfaction rate of customer would be high. One-dimensional functionalities are those which are there. If they are there, the customer would like it, they will be satisfied, and if they are not there, customer will not be happy about it. And then there are delighters. Delighters is again some functionality which is not needed, but yeah, if it's there, it'll definitely make a customer happy. So there are 1-2 more which I'm not able to recall right now, but I think in 𝐾𝐀 model we have these 4 thresholds that we use, which my product owner uses in some of the products. It's not very common, but yeah, this is used in some of the products to order or prioritize the user stories.
Okay, no issues. Thanks, Priyanka, for that. Okay, so let's talk about technical depth. What is technical depth and why it's accumulated over a period of time? If you want to share your thoughts.
Okay, so technical depth is a functionality which, although the developers have delivered and they have been passed on to the production or maybe for the end users to use, however, it was kind of a band-aid fix, or maybe it was not done in a very good manner. The code was not perfect, and maybe because of some tight deadlines, and it was because of a high urgent business need, the developers have delivered the functionality for the users to use. However, there are some technical glitches in that the performance may be low, so they need to work upon it in future, and that is called a technical debt. So over a period of time, if we do not work on those technical debt and they keep on adding up into our product, this will increase the reduce the quality of our product in a later stage. But yeah, to explain a technical debt, it is something which is not delivered perfectly and the code needs to be refactored in future. That is defined as technical debt.
So as a Scrum Master, how we can help our team to reduce this technical debt? Priyanka, follow-up question for you.
Yeah, so as a Scrum Master, I need to ensure that these are not piling up, the technical debts are not piling up, and maybe we can spare, I can encourage the team that during our planning, we can spare some of our capacity to work on these technical debts. So these are not keep on piling up, and we are keep on improving our product sprint by sprint. So I think as a Scrum Master, to coach and guide the team, that instead of just taking the new work all the time, just spare at least maybe 10% of the capacity to work on those technical debts, so we can improve the performance of the product at the same time.
True. Thanks. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Priyanka, for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about conflict management. So let's assume that as a Scrum Master, there is a situation where your one of your developer is blaming other one because you guys are not able to finish one or two user stories on time. So how you work on this kind of situation?
Sure. So handling conflict management is one of the important role that is played by a Scrum Master. As a Scrum Master, you need to first acknowledge the problem that yes, this is something happening in the team, and we should first acknowledge the problem, because just leaving it as it will increase the problem in future. Acknowledge the problem and then just talk about it whenever you get that opportunity. Maybe if it's related to a particular individual or two of them, just set up a meeting with them, talk about it openly. Or if it's within the team, we can talk about it into the retrospective. Considering this particular question where there is a conflict between two team members who are playing games, so we can as a Scrum Master have a one-on-one with those team members, talk about the problem, and as a good Scrum Master, listen to their perspective one by one, that what is your point of view in this term and what is your point of view, and then coming out to a common ground that what is the best possible solution we can do to avoid this, and getting their suggestions that what do you think is the right approach, and involving them in the solution making is something we can do as a Scrum Master. And apart from that, once we are able to talk about it and solve this problem, guiding them that this is not a right approach and we should take the ownership of the work we are doing rather than blaming somebody else for the problem that is happening. And then telling them that you should go with the Scrum values and you should be courageous enough to talk about what is your problem. You can talk about it to the Scrum Master, to the team members, and then follow another principle, which is respect. We should respect each other in the team. So yeah, again, taking the ownership, so guiding the team in the right direction and coming to a common ground, a common consensus during the meeting would help the team resolve this conflict.
Okay, thanks. Think about that. Okay, so what is DOR and DOD? And if you can just give example, like what consists of DOR and DOD?
Sure. So DOR and DOD in terms of Scrum is definition of ready and definition of done. These both are basically the checklist which tells us that, let me first talk about DOR. DOR is definition of ready, which is some of the items in the checklist that needs to be completed before we can say that functionality can be taken up for the user story can be taken up for the sprint, because it is all of the items in the DOR definition have been checked. That is called definition of ready. And some of the items in DOR can be like everybody in the team has been able to understand the functionality pretty well. There are no dependencies attached. The acceptance criteria, at least one of the acceptance criteria has been defined for the user story, and then the user story is following the invest criteria. The story has been estimated and like dependencies have been removed. Yeah, some of these can be the items in the definition of ready checklist. Similarly, DOD is definition of done, which is again checklist of items which needs to be marked or checked before the developers can say that the user story has been completed and it can be moved to the production. And again, if this definition of ready is not done, we cannot say that the user story can be moved to release or it can be released to the customers to use. And some of the examples that can be, some of the items in the DOD can be that the QA work has been completed, means the critical scenarios have been tested. All of the acceptance criteria that were defined for the user story has been met. The critical defects or bug have been fixed. The code has been committed to the server. Yeah, I think these are some of the items that can be in the definition of done. And everybody, every team can define their own definition of ready and definition of done checklist. So it varies from project to project, and it's not again static. We can change, it's dynamic. We can change it anytime within the project based upon the requirements or new functionalities that are coming in the project.
Okay, thanks, Priyanka. Okay, so let's talk about cross-functional team. So what is a cross-functional team?
Okay, so a cross-functional team in general terms is a team which in which all of the team members have different functional specialism. So they possess different qualities, I maybe say the technical skills. In terms of a Scrum framework, I would say a cross-functional team is one where the development team have different specialism to perform. So if a developer is there, he's a SME or a subject matter expert, in one of a language, so maybe Java. So he's a good coder in Java, and that's his specialization. However, he has that ability or skills to also do some basic testing, so that even in the absence of a QA, the team is not stuck and they are still able to perform their task and they are still able to deliver the functionality that they committed to. Yeah, I think that's a cross-functional team. And as a Scrum Master, we should ensure that our team is cross-functional. We should give the team that opportunity where they can learn different skills. Maybe we can conduct those workshops or those training sessions where a SME can give or present that knowledge to other people in the team, so that everybody in the team is aware that what is happening. A developer perfectly understands what are the things that are being tested. Similarly, a tester has an idea of what has been coded and what are the functionalities that have been used. And that's how a cross-functional team is there in a Scrum framework. And I would also like to add that a cross-functional team really helps the team to collaborate. They are more innovative. They are able to deliver their product or the functionality faster. The delays are less. So a cross-functional team, with the help of a cross-functional team, we are able to deliver our sprints or functionality faster rather than a team which is expert in only one area. So we have dependencies on other people, and that's how cross-functional teams helps in a Scrum framework.
Okay, thanks, Priyanka, for that.
Sure.
Okay, so as a Scrum Master, what do you do differently to make your retrospective more effective or more fun?
Sure. So retrospective is one of the events in the Scrum framework, and it's a meeting or it's a ceremony where the entire team meet together and they talk about how well we did as a sprint, what went well, what did not went well, and what is it that we can improve into our future sprints. That's all is covered in a sprint retrospective. So we use inspect and adapt in terms of the processes or tools or individuals. Now, we do not talk about the product during this meeting. We talk about processes and tools, because for product, we have a separate meeting, which is called sprint review. So in sprint retrospective, as a Scrum Master, I ensure that all of my team members are openly talking about what did not went well. I give each of them the opportunity to talk. So maybe creating that kind of environment where people can talk to each other and they do not feel that closed, creating that kind of open environment where people can share their views, and adding value by whatever suggestions they have given, taking those pointers, prioritizing them, that what is it that we can implement into our next sprint. So maybe taking those 2-3 pointers and then following up into the next sprint, so that people really see value out of the retrospective meeting, that yes, this is some of the idea that I gave and it was appreciated, and we have started to work upon it. We have started to improve upon that. So that's my approach in conducting the retrospective meetings. Apart from that, I prefer to use different techniques at different times rather than just following the same agenda every time, or maybe using only one of the method for doing retrospecting every time. Using different techniques gives encouragement to the team to participate, and again, making it more interactive in terms of giving sometimes appreciation to the people who have done well, or coming out with some rewards and recognition within the retrospective. This really helps to make them meeting more collaborative and engaging.
True. Okay, thanks Priyanka for that. Okay, so could you tell us few differences between the latest version of Scrum Guide versus the previous version? So we have in 2020, right?
Yeah. So in 2020, we came out with our latest version of Scrum Guide by Jeff and Ken. And I think in the latest version, the number of pages has in the sprint Scrum Guide has been reduced. I think the intent was they want to make it more simpler now, and so that people can understand the framework and not adding more and more things into the framework, rather simplifying it is something that has been happened. Apart from that, there are few changes that I think I know have noticed in the previous version versus the latest version. First one I would like to point out is that each of our artifacts, which is product backlog, sprint backlog, and the increment, has been tied to a commitment in our latest version of sprint Scrum Guide. So product backlog has a commitment that it is tied to a product goal. Similarly, sprint backlog is tied to a sprint goal, and the increment is tied to a commitment that it will add or deliver value to the customers. Apart from that, there were other changes, like in the previous version, we used to call the roles as product owner, scrum master, and the development team. In the latest version, we call them product owner, scrum master, and developers. So the third role, which is development team, has been changed to developers now. And to make it more clearer, the purpose of this is to ensure that we cannot have teams within teams. So instead of calling it as the development team, we now call it as developers. And these developers include everybody and anybody who is responsible for creating that functionality. It can be a business analyst or a UI developer or a tester so whatever the role we have into the team, we call them as developers, apart from scrum master and product owner. Along with that, other changes that I've observed is that in the previous version, the scrum master role is called as a servant leadership role. The term used was called as servant leader. Now in the latest version, it is now called as leader who serves. The reason behind is to ensure that the scrum master is not considered somebody who is just a facilitator or somebody who is an admin scheduling meetings for the teams, but there are some other terms that are there for the scrum master, like he somebody who is a leader, who is coaching the team, who is guiding them to follow the right direction during the sprint. He is giving them ideas that what all we can do to make our teams more self-sufficient and self-organizing. So that's how the term has been changed from servant leader to leader who serves. I think these are some of the ones that I can recall. There are some others also.
That's okay.
Okay.
That's okay. Thank you. Thanks for that. Okay. So according to you, what's the difference between a capability and a feature? And if you can just give some example, that would be great.
Okay, so capability and feature are the terms I would say not from the Scrum framework, but rather from the SAFe, which is Scaled Agile Framework. And capability, let me think of a good example which I can share, which will help people to understand it. So for example, if we are developing a software and within that, the capability would be that it can be delivered on multiple browsers. The functionality should work on multiple browsers. That would be called as a capability. And feature is something which is the actual functionality which is working. So if we are developing a login page, what all the features would be there? There'll be a username, there'll be a password, and then there'll be a submit button, which will be pressed, which we will press to get that functionality work. That would be a feature. And capability is, will this functionality or feature will work on different browsers? I think that's how I would like to explain capability and feature. And yes, these are SAFe terms and not something we can see in Scrum framework.
Yeah, thanks, Priyanka. That's okay. That's okay. And what about impediments? So could you just give us some example based on your past experience that as a Scrum Master, how you resolve some of the impediments for your team?
Sure. So as a Scrum Master, one of the basic responsibility is to solve impediments for the team, or at least helping the team members, so that giving them right direction with the help of which they can resolve that problem. Some of the examples that I can share about impediments is that there was a situation during a time when we were working on a functionality, and for testing that functionality, we needed to use a third-party server. And that server used to get down many times, and the team got stuck there. They were not able to proceed with the testing. And due to that, this was delaying our work a lot. So as together, I call up the team, we talked about this problem, that how we can really work upon that. And there came an idea where we talked about that how we can really resolve this. Somebody gave that idea that if we can create an automated script which will run and which will tell us that server is down, and there'll be a Jira ticket created automatically, and it will be assigned to the owner who is responsible for fixing the problem. And it will be communicated to the entire team at the same time via an email that, yes, this is not working. And there is a tag defined for this, that we need to fix it within 3 hours. So this is one of the idea that came out, that maybe we can create an automated script. So as a Scrum Master, I suggested this idea in a bigger forum, and we finally implemented this idea, which worked for us. With the help of it, we were able to minimize our delays, because since the ticket was created, the problem was solved in a much lesser time. And the idea was really appreciated, that it was even implemented it was implemented in many other teams, and it is now very well working in the organization. So this was one of the area. Along with that, another example of impediment is that, suppose somebody in the developers team is facing challenges with some of the technical work. So guiding them, if I myself cannot solve that problem, being a non-technical person, I can guide them to the right person. I can, conduct that. I can schedule that meeting with I can talk to the person who is the right person to help in that technical skill to my team. So facilitating that meeting, or maybe scheduling that meeting, getting the time from that person, and then in a way helping the team so that they can work on that problem. They can get the idea from other person, and they can work on that solution, is something we can do. And that is one of the impediments.
Okay, thanks, Priyanka, for that. Okay, so this one is again an interesting one. The question is, what is your X factor, or why we are going to hire you? So how to deal with this kind of questions?
So X factor, we can explain it in the terms of the achievements that we have done into our role as a Scrum Master. what I do as a Scrum Master is that, or what I would say my X factor would be, that I keep looking for forums or the opportunities where I can showcase my knowledge about the Scrum framework, so that I can help, apart from my team, I can help other teams in the organization who are still not following the framework. So guiding them or coaching them that what is this framework all about, and what are the kind of projects where we implement it, and how will it help the organization as well as the team to build the right project which will give a good business value to the organization, and it will give the opportunity for the team members to action themselves. This is a process which with the help of which we can be transparent enough, and we can follow, inspect and adapt. So yeah, that's one of the way that we can say that looking for various forums where I can showcase my knowledge about the framework and helping other teams adopt the framework. Apart from that, explaining that with my current team, I have been able to make my team mature enough that they are now self-organizing. They are able to manage their work within themselves, and with the help of which there is a least involvement of me as a Scrum Master now. Even if my absence, they are able to facilitate all the ceremonies. They are able to work upon the defects during the downtime. They are able to come up with certain ideas or suggestions during the retrospective meeting. So this is a way I can see that my team is growing. They are maturing from norming to performing now. And I think that's one of the things I would say as an achievement for the Scrum Master. And these are some of the good qualities a Scrum Master should have, and basis that I think I am a good fit for the organization.
Yes, you are. That's why you have 10 offers. Okay. Thanks a lot, Priyanka. I think, yes, we have covered all our remaining questions as well. So thanks again one more time. And it's not like this is going to be just one more session. Obviously, we're going to invite you again and again, maybe in future when you settle down in your new job.
Sure,
So thanks again, Priyanka, and best of luck.
Yeah, thank you, Sanand. Thank you so much for the time.
Thanks.
Thank you.